Уважаемые дамы и господа, просим вас занять свои места, отключить мобильные телефоны и вспышки фотокамер. Пленарное заседание начнется через несколько минут. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we kindly ask you to take your seats, switch off your mobile phones, and disable the flash on your cameras. The plenary session will start in a few minutes. Уважаемые дамы и господа, просим вас занять свои места, отключить мобильные телефоны и вспышки фотокамер. Пленарное заседание начнется через несколько минут. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we kindly ask you to take your seats, switch off your mobile phones and disable the flash on your cameras. The plenary session will start in a few minutes. Уважаемые дамы и господа, просим вас занять свои места и отключить мобильные телефоны и вспышки фотокамер. Пленарное заседание начнется через несколько минут. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we kindly ask you to take your seats, switch off your mobile phones and disable the flash on your cameras. The plenary session will start in a few minutes. Уважаемые дамы и господа, просим вас занять свои места и отключить мобильные телефоны и вспышки фотокамер. Пленарное заседание начинается. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we kindly ask you to take your seats, switch off your mobile phones and disable the flash on your cameras. The plenary session is starting now.
1869 год. Русский ученый и гений Дмитрий Менделеев открывает для человечества периодическую систему химических элементов. По сути, распахнуто окно во Вселенную, помогающее расширить понимание окружающего мира. Открытие придает химии форму и логику, превращает ее в основу будущих технологических свершений. В дальнейшем открытия советских и российских ученых-химиков сформировали фундамент, на котором выросли целые отрасли науки, промышленности, фармацевтики. Внесли весомый вклад в укрепление
helped us strengthen the security of our country. The modern stage of development gives the chemical industry new challenges. New materials and chemistry are the breakthrough new areas. They will help ensure technological sovereignty and technological leadership. Lay the foundation and spur on future, even more revolutionary discoveries in healthcare, industry, microelectronics, in creation of unmanned systems, in all spheres with no exception. It is readily apparent that in order to be among the leaders in key areas of scientific and technological development, and that is the task that we're setting for ourselves, we need to achieve, among others, predominance in chemistry and in creation of new materials. That means that we need to offer competitive solutions and products in terms of price and quality, but they must be innovative. We need to have our own unique technological know-hows that would allow to produce and export to the global markets not just raw commodities, but the products of the highest standard. I'd like to especially highlight that in our past, we've had experience of solving tasks of the same scale and significance. During the 60s and 70s of the 20th century, largely thanks to the efforts of Leonid Kostandov. Not many people know this name today or remember it, but the specialists, I guess, do know, and they will have reminiscence about him. He used to be the Minister of Chemical Industry of the USSR. Back then, hundreds of cutting-edge plants were launched. Specialized scientific institutions and design bureaus were created. In terms of total output volume, Soviet chemical industry was ranked #1 in Europe and #2 in the world. However, that heritage was largely squandered. And I say that with great regret. I feel shame about it. I feel shame because so many people gave all their lives to create the chemical industry of the Soviet Union. They were working for the future generations. They spent their days and nights in their offices, and they used to live also in harsh conditions, in train cars, moving around the whole territory of the Soviet Union from one republic to another. They didn't have enough sleep or food, but they were creating the chemical industry of the USSR. Unfortunately, after the dissipation of the Soviet Union, crucial production was discontinued, production facilities were simply destroyed, the equipment was taken out for scrap metal. Along with deterioration of our own chemical industry, we fell into strong external dependence, and we've lost a significant part of our industrial and technological sovereignty. Therefore, we know through our own negative experience what kind of systemic issues stem from vulnerability in the sphere of chemistry. In essence, we literally had to reconfigure anew many technological and production chains, build new enterprises to produce independently deep conversion products. For example, in Tumensk region, Tobolsk petrochemical plant became the foundation for new capacity, and in 2019, a modern petrochemical plant, Zapsib-Neftekhim, was launched. Underway is the construction of Amur gas chemical facility, as well as other enterprises that will help in the nearest future significantly increase the production of polymers, the key product of petrochemicals and gas chemistry. I'd like to add that after cleanup and remediation of the territory of Usolye-Sibirsk in the Irkutsk region is slated to host a breakthrough federal center of fine chemistry. For those who might not know that, or are not experts in the sphere, I can say that we're talking about the production of small volumes, however necessary volumes, of specialized chemical products, resins, solvents that are simply crucial for the development of microelectronics, pharmaceuticals, and many other critically important spheres. Another cross-cutting area is catalysts, that is the foundation of chemistry. Substances that define the speed of reaction. It's important to ensure not only the development, but further testing, pilot production, followed by wide industrial use, as well as scaling up of domestic solutions. To support such projects, the famous Boreskov Institute of Catalysis in Novosibirsk is becoming a special scientific and technological cluster. It's an important step towards the development of all-Siberian scientific cluster as one of the key centers for the creation of technologies of the future in chemistry. Colleagues, in order not to fall behind the pace of progress in global competition, we need to significantly increase the potential of Russian chemical industry and adjacent sectors. We need to build the full cycle, starting with the exploration development of new deposits, including rare and rare earth metals, production and deep conversion of mineral resources, ending with the production of high-tech products with high added value. We have something to work on here. In essence, we have all the necessary components. We simply need to set the tasks and provide the conditions for businesses and invest in infrastructure. We still do not produce lithium in Russia, and we cannot develop without it. It is apparent for the specialists here, and we can. We could have done it a decade or 15 years ago. We need to solve these tasks using the principal new technological level, using achievements in AI and robotics, other tools aimed at increasing the productivity of labor. In science as well, our serious advantage here is an accessible and affordable energy. We have one of the largest grids of nuclear hydrothermal power plants. That allows us to build factories in many regions of our country, and naturally we need to do that with respecting the most stringent environmental norms, using modern, environmentally friendly solutions. The spheres that I'm mentioning here are complex and of utmost importance. Therefore, in the sphere of new materials and chemistry, this year we've launched a new national project of technological leadership. The federal budget alone for the implementation from 2025 till 2030 earmarks about 170 billion rubles. Simultaneously, the investments of the companies of the real sector in the economy might stand at about 1 trillion rubles, and I think that's very realistic. I've talked to the owners and leaders of the companies, and they have very ambitious plans. I like this sentiment. We'll support them in their strive, and we'll fine-tune the mechanisms of supporting of private investment, including in R&D. I've mentioned many times that external issues and sanctions, with all the challenges and complexities for us, have played an important role of an incentive. Russian companies now turn more and more often to our scientists, and they receive the consultations from them. And it turns out that the domestic solutions quite often become more effective and efficient than international counterparts. In order to ensure a modern legal framework for cooperation between researchers and qualified clients, we've adopted a law on technological policy. It will enter into force in the summer of this year. I have already mentioned, and I have set this task, that together with the business community, we need to increase the funding of science up to 2% of GDP. It is crucial that we send all the additional resources for the support of promising, disruptive areas of scientific and technological development. For example, in chemistry and new materials, it would be rather myopic and erroneous to be satisfied with simply substituting the technological processes that have already been explored somewhere abroad. It is naturally quite important. We need to keep in mind all the achievements and to make use of them, but we need to develop our own platforms. Right now, we're looking at the exhibition. My colleagues promised me that they will show me our progress. As we have agreed, in December last year, during the Council for Strategic Development National Projects, we need to shape plans in key dimensions that will ensure the predominance of the country in chemistry and modern material sciences as well. It's important to define the lead scientific organizations. They will take on the responsibility for conducting fundamental research, companies that are to introduce the technologies of the future and fine-tune the talent training in chemistry for the tasks of technological leadership at all educational levels, starting with school, ending with universities. Unfortunately, the number of chemistry teachers in school is going down, and the number of students who are choosing chemistry as their major is going down as well. As for the number of chemistry teachers who are older than 65 is increasing. We need at what's happening in universities and institutions. I would like to ask you for a maximum engagement. The Russian Academy of Sciences, entrepreneurs, professional, scientific, and educational community. It's important that you continue to act in concert as true partners, and you to be aware of responsibility for results. The implementation of all national projects of technological development hinge on that. Our plans to develop Siberia, the Arctic, and the Far East, all regions of the country, and naturally solving the tasks in security and improving the quality of life of people. Security is a thing of its own. I have already spoken publicly about it. The whole world is talking about a Russian missile. What is it made of? The temperature on the payload is about the temperature of on the surface of the sun. We have to be conscious of that. Starting with the 1980s, some gliding block technologies were being developed. It's called Vanguard today. It has comparable temperatures on the warhead, a bit less than the surface of the sun. We were thinking about that back in the 80s, but it couldn't be done because there were no materials for it. That was the issue. It's flying and it's melting like ice cream. But this signal for homing is still coming through. That's the result of materialist science. Back in the day, for no apparent reason, our joint agreements on MS 21-300, all the opportunities were closed down at that for wind. Yes, we had to postpone the project, but still we developed our own wind technologies with our own heads and minds, and we need to do that in all other dimensions as well, and to work constructively together. I'd like to ask the government to think about the way we could regulate the interaction between our enterprises and enterprises of our competitors in order to ensure certain advantages for our national producers. Yes, as part of the WTO system, but still there were certain hindrances were created for us, and so we can regulate that. for those who would like to come back to our markets, creating the advantages for our own producers. We need to do that, fine-tune that, but it needs to be done. I see that Minister Mantrov is here and in agreement. He's not in agreement. Well, we've spoken about it, just like in agriculture. When agri-producers were begging us, don't let anyone in our market. We'll do it all by ourselves, except for bananas, naturally. But now they're producing bananas as well. Bit costly, but still. But as for industrial production, we need to think it through and treat it with great attention, not to lose the potential that has been created by our ill-wishers who introduced sanctions against us. I have already mentioned it, but I would like to give a few other examples in order to develop machine engineering and aviation production, missile and space program. We need composite materials and alloys with unique characteristics. I've just mentioned it. Plant protection, a different sphere, in order to solve the tasks of food security. Durable, safe systems for transfer and storage of energy, for UAVs, for new means of transportation, more durable and energy-efficient materials for construction sphere, in order to adapt for climate change, new compounds, biomaterials, and prototypes of organs and tissues of human, in order to introduce breakthrough treatment methods in healthcare. I'd repeat myself that I've just outlined some specific directions. However, the lack of results, even in a single one of them, and I'd like to highlight that specifically, would create a domino effect and will drag down all other national projects. I've given you an example of MS-21-300. We had no materials for the fuselage and for the body and the wings, and the whole project was stuck. The same applies to other spheres as well. We've seen it all with our own eyes. That is the experience of our work in the past 2-3 years. As for all key technological spheres, we need to build comprehensive coordination and natural interconnectedness of all of our steps and measures. And I suggest that we ensure a higher level mechanism for steering technological development. I'd like to ask the government to propose the necessary governance ideas. Colleagues, all our plans to create the solutions for the future in chemistry, material sciences are based on tremendous potential of our scientific and engineering schools. Their traditions were laid back in the Russian Empire. I spoke about the Soviet Union, but the traditions were created in the Russian Empire in the 19th and beginning of the 20th century, and they were developed in the Soviet times as well. As I have just said, I'm sure that Mikhail Kovalchuk, we have just met with him and we had some words, and other participants of the plenary session will tell you about how today the achievements in chemistry and material sciences are multiplying that were received back in the time of a space and nuclear project. Other research for the energy of the future of thermonuclear fusion spearheaded by Yevgeny Velihov, and I believe it's necessary to dedicate to the memory of this outstanding thinker and citizen in a new grant contest by Russian Scientific Foundation for Leading Scientists. The grant for 5 years will range from 250 million rubles up to 500 million rubles. The largest domestic companies will co-finance these grants or be direct clients of disruptive technologies. As for support spheres, they will change annually. This year, I suggest to dedicate this contest to creation of unique materials and products thereof for autonomous sources of energy, propulsion and energy units, as well as for devices and systems for processing of information necessary for development of artificial intelligence as well. It is absolutely apparent that this technology is defining the development of all spheres, and is producing a real revolution in chemistry and material science as well. Through introducing artificial intelligence and computer modeling, our country needs, and it's quite realistic, to cut down to 5 to 10 years and in the future to 2 or 3 years the timeline for developing and introducing of new materials. For that, the researchers, engineers should have the necessary data bank about the existing materials and their components. I suggest we build a mechanism for regulation of operations with them, including collection, storage, processing, transfer, and the use of them. I'd like to add that tremendous body of data, breakthrough knowledge about new elements and materials will be received during the research at domestic installations of mega science class. They allow us to study the matter literally at the level of atoms. I'd like to highlight specifically that some facilities in our country, for example, Nika in Dubna or PIK in Leningrad region, are unique, unparalleled. In the nearest future, we plan to conduct the technological launch of yet another powerful installation called SCIF. It will significantly increase the functionality and range of possibilities of Russian research infrastructure. Naturally, we'd like to invite international scientists to work together as well. Leningrad region, where I've traveled several years ago, was the place for work of specialists from Europe, from those countries where the use of nuclear energy was rolled back. Therefore, they rolled back the research in that sphere as well. Here, they were quite happy to work in Russia, and we hope that that will continue. Our door is always open. We're always happy to welcome our friends and colleagues. I'd like to highlight that we understand fully well that open and transparent, equal exchange of information in scientific sphere is one of key factors for strengthening multipolar world. We'll continue to facilitate bringing together efforts of researchers and engineers from the East and the South in order to solve large-scale experimental, theoretical, and naturally practical tasks. BRICS is already a platform for social, economic development and technological development of the global level. We do not intend to install barriers for a partnership with the Western scientists, and we hope that the Western politicians will understand how detrimental such actions of limitation in cooperation in science and education is. It's important that the global development is just and well balanced. Therefore, we need to ensure further industrial technological progress while decreasing the negative impact for the environment, maintaining the fragile ecosystem of the planet, its fauna and flora. Naturally, we'll take a look at the need to introduce such technologies. In the center of special attention today are breakthrough solutions in genetics, bio and natural-like technologies, as well as creation of materials that mimic the processes in live systems. Overall, we're talking about the shape of a principled new phenomenon, a new reality, bioeconomics. This topic is crucial and key from the point of view of global growth and its quality. I suggest that we dedicate the next Future Technology Forum to the matters of bioeconomy, naturally if colleagues believe it possible and interesting. We'd like to invite all scientists, educational community and business community from around the world. We are prepared to cooperate. Friends, I'm very happy that our country is a place for a frank and meaningful discussion of scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs. That testifies to the transparency of Russia and our special attention to the matters of scientific and technological development. I don't think that any expert would take it upon himself to forecast the new solutions that will be discovered and invented even in the nearest future. However, there is something that we can do, and we can do it for sure. That is to ensure our efficient support for key technological areas that are especially crucial and useful for the citizens, for society, for economic growth. It is in this direction we intend to work. And I'm quite sure that that's the tone for your discussion today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Thank you for this introduction. Mr. President, from the outset, I would like to thank you. We know you're on a very tight schedule, but still you found the time to participate in this forum, which in itself is a testimony to the attitude towards science and technology in our country. So our forum has been elevated to a whole new level. Thank you. Before I give the floor to the other speakers, I would like to say a couple of words. As you're aware, everything in life is material. When the special military operation was declared, it was a reminder to the world that it's material and we are a significant part of that material world. Any human thought arrives in society through material means. If a painter has an idea, then he should put that into practice, make that a reality through a painting or through a sculpture. So through material means any human thought becomes available to society. So when questions are asked about the priorities, about the development of science, there are two priorities. First, matter, and the second, energy, which is required to build that matter. You know, once I talked to Mr. President, and you said there is another priority, which is soul and intellect, intelligence, and human thoughts. And I think our country has an abundance of all of that, both matter and energy, as well as intellect. If we didn't have that, then we wouldn't have been able to build spacecraft, which is a testimony to our capability. Before I give the floor to a representative of Kurchatov Institute, Vladislav Antipov, I would like to say something. We spoke about nature-like technologies, and this is something you mentioned, Mr. President. We say nature-like, but the very course of life basically resulted in the emergence of these technologies. Our technological world is very simple. We cut everything that is redundant. Like we take a tree, we take away everything but the trunk, and then we turn it into hardboard. And it means that basically 80% of matter is not used, whereas nature knows how to save things. You turn one cell into a living being. A seed is turned into a plant. And nature-like technologies follow that logic. The very development of technology has made us come here. We take a laser and create unique things through powder, which is welded together using these nature-like technologies. When I was a student, 90% of articles were about semiconductors, whereas right now 80%, 90% of articles are on life. So biocompatibility and biocompatible materials, that is another priority. I would like to ask you, Vladislav, could you tell us about the priorities and the forecasts and the prospects of the biggest center for material science? Over to you. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, in all times, thanks to materials with specific properties, we've managed to come to the goals we fixed. A very good example is the Soviet space program. A lot of materials had been created. So far, no one has been able to replicate the Buran flight, for which a unique thermal protection based on quartz molecules was developed, and 80% of that was thanks to air, because it's a very good thermal insulator. We managed to protect Buran from temperatures of 1200 degrees. We have other examples like the centrifuges. Not everyone knows that for 30 years you need a centrifuge up and running, and it creates several thousand rotations per minute. So unique composite materials of that. Right now we've got a national program which sets the priorities for the next decades, like nature-like technologies, Arctic, space exploration, clean energy. All of these tasks have to be addressed through developing new materials as well as new technology, as Mr. Kovalchuk has pointed out. Kurchatov Institute is one of the leaders in terms of materials sciences, and we are doing this kind of research. Right now, humanity is entering the era of biological materials. What seemed like science fantasy yesterday is now becoming reality. For regenerative medicine, for other sectors, we create unique things like a framework for a human heart or a trachea substitute. Right now there are other examples like the gas turbine materials. The most important thing there is the turbine blade, and right now we are working on monocrystal turbine blades. They're basically one single crystal. Thanks to special coating, we managed to make it resist almost 1950 Kelvin. We have built these materials for PD-14. Well, let's take a motor gondola, which is 60% carbon and ceramic plastics. This is one of the materials that has been developed thanks to the grants from the government. We also use additive 3D technologies for several elements of the combustion chamber. Also, the 21st century is the era of additive technology. We create new things layer by layer, which was impossible through conventional means. Right now, Kurchatov Institute has a whole series, a whole cluster of these 3D printers, which are used for energy, for cars, for medicine. The efficiency of additive technology can be demonstrated through one simple example, like the thermal apparatus for PD-191. In the past, it used to weigh 70 kilos and it took several months to build. It consisted of 23 spare parts. Right now, through additive means, we can build this thermal convector which only weighs 19 kilos, and we've managed to decrease 20-fold the time required for the creation of that element. So you see how efficient these 3D technologies are. We built more than 10,000 details through 3D means, and Kurchatov Institute is responsible for the technical side, carrying out research, providing these technologies to our partners. And of course, it's very good to work together with Rosatom because it's endowed with a great potential. So Kurchatov Institute will build the scientific groundwork, whereas the state corporation will help us scale it up. Now, as for Arctic exploration, we also need special property materials, because these materials have to work in the Arctic conditions, low temperatures, higher humidity, and other things. Kurchatov Institute has come up with cold-resistant steels, which are built, which are used for the hull of the icebreakers, which have to go through ice more than 4 meters thick. And also there are sealing materials and cold-resistant materials and paint coatings. So our technological groundwork has made it so that Russia is the only country that can boast of a fully fledged icebreaker fleet. We are also working on underwater gas carriers. Mr. President has pointed that out as well, but Russia requires an interdisciplinary database of materials properties which will help us bring down the time required for the development of new technologies. We'll have more information on properties, on specifics. This will help us achieve uniformity throughout different industrial sectors. This will also help us get access to new materials. Thank you for your attention. I would like to thank Kurchatov Institute for what you're doing. You have mentioned but a fraction of research you are carrying out, but of course there are many other avenues. It comes as a surprise, but Kurchatov looks into genetics very actively, as far as I'm aware. Our colleague has just spoken about that, but maybe some of you might have missed that. Our colleague has spoken about the possibility of developing underwater gas carriers. When a couple of years